Hello, and welcome back to Rooted in Relationship when managing behavior isn't working. I'm your host, PCI certified parent coach, Raelee Pierce. Okay, so today I want to talk about something that might be the most important thing I've ever talked or tried to put into words on this podcast. And I'm not being dramatic. Well, maybe a little, but for real, this is the foundation of everything. I want to talk about what it actually looks like when a child is attached to you. Because here's what I find in my coaching work. Parents come to me and they're like, Raelee, my kid won't listen. My kid is defiant. My kid hits. My kid ignores me and then turns around and does exactly what their friend tells them to do. And I totally get it. That is so frustrating. That makes you want to pull your hair out and eat your feelings at 8 p.m. after bedtime. I see you. I get that. What I've learned, and this comes straight from the developmental psychologist, Dr. Gordon Neufeld, whose work is the foundation of so much of what I do as a coach, is that when we're struggling with our kids' behavior, 9 times out of 10, we're not actually looking at a behavior problem. We're looking at a relationship problem. And that's such a good news because relationships, those we can work with. So let's get into it. I want to read you a list. And as I read it, I want you to think about your child. Don't judge yourself. Don't spiral. Just notice. A child who is attached to you, listens to you, attends to you, takes cues from you, looks up to you, trusts in you, seeks your help, likes your company, feels at home with you, follows you, likes you, wants to please you, and doesn't want to have secrets from you. Now, when I first heard that list, my first thought was, oh, so basically a unicorn. Like, that sounds amazing. Sign me up. Where do I get one of those? And then I learned the thing that changed a lot for me as a parent and as a coach. Ready? Here it is. Every single child has the capacity to be like this. Every single one. It is not genetic. You cannot blame your partner for a bad set of genes. Sorry. That excuse is off the table. And it's also not something you can teach. You cannot train a child into wanting to listen to you. You cannot sticker chart your way to a kid who looks up to you and wants to please you. That's not how it works. These qualities are the natural fruit of attachment. They grow from the relationship. When the relationship is doing its job, these things show up on their own, like nature just handles it. Let me give you a picture of this because I think it helps. Have you ever watched a mama goose, like actually watched her walk somewhere with her goslings? They just follow. Nobody trained them. Nobody gave them a consequence for not following. Nobody said, if you follow me to the pond, you can have screen time later. They follow because they're attached, period. Nature takes care of it. And this is supposed to be what it looks like with our kids too. When attachment is doing its work, our children follow our lead. Not because they're afraid of us, not because we're threatened, not because we threatened them, because they're oriented to us. We're their compass point. They get their bearings from us, how to act, what matters, what to do. But here's the thing. If you've ever been on a field trip with, let's just say a random kindergarten class, that that's not usually what's happening there. Now, I can say what's interesting. My children did attend, and many of you know, they attended a Waldorf school, and nothing's perfect. And yet, what was so like clear to me when I watched my daughter's teacher, my daughter entered Waldorf in first grade, and her teacher just was amazing. She really understood relationship. And would you know that I just saw these first graders following her teacher like she was the mother goose and they were all of her little goslings? And what's interesting, there was a little preschool down the road from us when where we lived. And when I was driving, I don't know, to work, typically in the morning, they would be out on a little walk. And it was almost the opposite of what I witnessed at the Waldorf school with my daughter's teacher. They had a teacher in front, but they also had a teacher in the back. And then all of the children were hanging on to a rope and they were just in a line and they were just holding on to this rope. So they were not following, out of their free will. They were basically, you know, they were just they weren't attached to their teachers. They needed to have this rope tell them who to follow. And it makes me think a lot about different things in nature. I love the idea like you can imagine a gorilla saying, um, I'm tired. Can you just look after yourself for a bit or, do whatever you want? No. If you have ever seen a video of a gorilla mama, there's no do what you want. It's you follow me, you come with me. And the baby does. The baby always does because the attachment is intact. That's what it's designed to do. So, okay, this is where I need you to lean in because this is probably, one of the most important things I could say in this episode. When a child is attached to you, attachment evokes in them a desire to be good for you. Okay, did you hear that? Because not a requirement to be good, not a fear of consequences, a desire, an actual genuine want to. And here's the kicker, that desire only exists toward the people they're attached to. So a child does not want to be good for everybody. They want to be good for you, for the people they love and feel connected to. That's it. That means, and this is where it gets real, if you're not feeling that desire from your child right now, if your kid seems like they could not care less about pleasing you, that's not a character flaw. It's not a bad kid. That's information about the relationship. It's telling you something. And that's actually good news because it means that this isn't a problem that needs a bigger consequence. It's a relational problem that needs more connection. So let me tell you about a family that I worked with. We'll call them the Andersons. We'll call mom Rachel. She came to me overwhelmed. She had a lot going on, 2 kids, full schedule, and the kind of day where she's on the highway and one kid says, I need to pee, and the other says, I'm hungry, and there's no place to pull over. Those days where the traffic is insane, you're late for something, and everybody's just losing it in the back seat. You know that. So Rachel does what any smart mom would do. She takes a turn, finds a park, and says, forget it. We're eating, we're going to play, we're going to use the bathroom, we're going to go. We're going home when the traffic dies down. She just couldn't handle this traffic situation. And I don't care if we miss the gymnastics class that we're signed up for later this afternoon. She called her husband, hey, so be it. Right. And I said, wow, Rachel, that was brilliant. Because here's what she did in that moment. Even though she didn't have the language for it yet, she chose her children's nervous systems over the schedule. She chose connection over compliance. She chose to be the calm, steady compass point, even when everything around her was chaos. And here's what was also happening for Rachel. And this is the part I want you to hear. She came to the session feeling guilty. She was carrying this load of, am I present enough? Am I doing enough? I know I'm doing my best, but it's not good enough. And I could feel it. It was heavy. And she said something that so many parents say to me. She said, there are pockets of time when I'm playing with them and I'm present, but then they come and pull my hand when I'm in the middle of dishes and my mind is racing and I have a schedule and everything is everywhere. And I want to say this to you right now because maybe you need to hear it too. That doesn't mean the attachment isn't working. One of my favorite illustrations is this: a dad driving his family around in the south of France. This is actually Dr. Gordon Neufeld. It's a hilarious little story. I mean, sweet little story. So here he is. He's driving around in the south of France and he is completely hopelessly lost, like an hour past the point of being lost. And he can't admit it because he says, well, he's a dude, right? He couldn't admit it. And his 6-year-old son piped up from the back of the car and says, Daddy, it's okay. You get lost all the time, but we're never lost. We're always with you. I mean, come on, if that doesn't make you tear up a little bit, right? That's so sweet. But here's what's happening there. That child is so attached to Gordon Neufeld, the dad, that even when he is completely bewildered, when the dad is completely lost, has no idea where he's going, his child felt at home. All is right because attachment provides orientation. It's not about us having it all figured out. It's about the child being anchored in the relationship. So, for you, parents who feel like you're failing because your mind was racing during dishes and you didn't drop everything the second your kid pulled your hand, you can still be their compass point. You can provide that sense of home and safety, even when you were completely bewildered about where this is all going. Like in those chaotic moments, you're their compass point. That's the beauty of attachment. You don't have to be perfect. You have to be present enough that they know I'm with you. I've got you, right? We're in this together. Okay, I want to tell you about a moment that really, it was such a funny little moment in coaching. And it was also really insightful, I thought. I was working with a couple, we'll call them Jess and Morgan, and they run a business together. They're also raising a feisty little 3-year-old. And we were talking about collecting. And that's the practice of gathering your child's eyes, their smile, their nod, before you ask them to do anything. Collect before you direct. It's how you get a working relationship going in the moment. And Morgan goes, oh, so basically we're giving her great customer service. And, I just died with that because yes, that's exactly what it is. Think about it. When you give someone great customer service, what's driving that? You don't want conflict. You want them to walk away thinking, wow, she's really good to work with. I'd recommend her to anybody. You want a good working relationship. You're warm, you're attuned, you read the room, you know how to play them like an instrument. And I don't mean that in a manipulative way. I mean, you know what they need. That's attunement. And when we're attuned to our kids, when we really care about the relationship and we don't want to be annoying or frustrating to them, we figure out how to reach them. We learn what works. You would never walk into your partner's office and say, hey, the bed wasn't made. Go do that right now. You just wouldn't. You'd read the room. You'd come in warm. You'd find the right moment to say, oh, hey, I noticed it might be playful, right? You might playful would be like, you must have been in a real hurry this morning. I noticed you didn't make the bed. So, why do we do that with our kids? We walk in, they're deep in something like building a tower or reading a book in their own little world, and we're like, time to go, choose now. And then we're surprised when they resist. Collect first, get the eye, smile, nod, then lead. I know some of you are listening to this and thinking, okay, that's great, but I'm not feeling any desire from my child to be good for me, like at all. My kid does the opposite of everything I say. First, I want you to take a breath, right? Because yeah, that does not feel good. It's a very vulnerable place to be. And I want to tell you something that I wish someone had told me earlier in my parenting. So the question is never, never, how do I make my child behave? The question is, does my child want to be good for me? And if the answer right now is, I don't think so, that's not a reason to panic. That's a reason to shift your focus away from the behavior toward the relationship. Because when we don't have that attachment power, when we're not feeling the pull of the relationship, that's when we start doing the things that actually make it worse. We start using tricks. We start with the consequences and the reward charts and the if you do this, then you get that. We start leveraging what our children care about against them. And none of it works long term because none of it is building the thing that actually makes a child easy to parent. I had a family, we'll call them the Holloways, and the parents came to me frazzled because their 4-year-old was resisting everything, getting dressed, eating, getting in the car, brushing teeth. It was a battle from sunrise to bedtime. They were exhausted. And when we looked at it through a developmental lens, what we saw was a child in a totally normal stage of individuation, right? That phase where their emerging self is pushing back against everything because they're becoming their own person a little bit. They're understanding, like, I have some autonomy. That's not defiance, that's development. But because the parents didn't have that lens yet, they were meeting the resistance with more force, more consequences, and more frustration. And the whole thing was just escalating. So, what did we do? We backed off, way off the behavior management. We stopped the sticker charts. We focused on 3 simple things: collecting before directing, providing more than the child was seeking, more eye contact, more warmth, more I see you moments throughout the day. And we stopped making every single transition a power struggle. It wasn't instant. I'm not going to lie to you and tell you it was magic overnight. But within a couple of weeks, the resistance softened because the child felt held again. They felt anchored. And from that place, they could rest. And from rest, they could follow. So before I wrap up, I need to give you a really important piece of this. No child is like that beautiful list all the time. None of them, not a single one. This comes and goes. We are human, we are messy, our kids are messy. The quote unquote relationship juice flows well one moment and not the next. And that doesn't necessarily mean something is terribly wrong. Sometimes, and this is going to seem backwards, sometimes when children are deeply, securely attached, they actually show up more resistant. They show more resistance, more pushing back, more of the strong willed, I don't want to, you can't make me energy. And that's because they feel safe enough with you to be their own person, to individuate. They can take the relationship for granted, which means they can push against it. So if your child is going through a big resistance phase and you also know deep down that your relationship is actually pretty solid, that might be exactly what's happening. A deeply attached child in a season of becoming themselves. There's a lot to look at, right? And you don't have to figure it out alone. Here's what I want you to take away from today. Stop asking, how do I make my child behave? Start asking, do I have what I need relationally from my child to want to behave for me? Because when the attachment is doing its work, you don't need the tricks. You don't need the threats. You don't need to be louder or scarier or more creative with your consequences. You just need the relationship. And if that feels like a lot right now, if you're sitting there going, okay, but I don't even know where to start. This is exactly what I'm here for. It's what keeps me up at night, is helping parents who are struggling, they're stuck, they're just in the muck of this. Come find me at innerlifeparenting.com. I offer a free clarity session for, we just sit down together and we start to see your child through a developmental lens. And we'll look at what's really going on underneath the behavior. And we'll talk about what it looks like to build a real parenting practice, something sustainable, something that actually goes somewhere with support behind you. You don't have to white knuckle this. You don't have to Google one more how to get my kid to listen article at midnight. Come on over. I'd love to meet you. All right, friends, take good care of yourselves and your little people. I'll see you next time.